it's Lee from ColouringQueen.net, and I've been saying that line now for 4 years. Can you believe it? I can't. So I thought in that 4 years I've never really spoken about what got me started in colouring and why I'm here. So I thought now is a good time probably to mention it because it's 4 years in and I've never celebrated any of these YouTube anniversaries, but I thought this year, why not? Because 4 years is quite a while to be here and to be with you. And I've had a YouTube channel in the past and I didn't last 4 years on it. So, I think I'll celebrate this one. So, back in, I think it would be 2015, I was working in a corporate job. And it was stressful. And this is how I got started in colouring, because I used to work hellish hours. I'll give you an idea. I used to get to work usually between 5:30 a.m. and 6 a.m. Having travelled by public transport to get there, so obviously I was getting up earlier than that. And I had a job that didn't allow me to slop around in a ponytail, yoga pants and a t-shirt like I do now. And I had a job where I had to, put on the makeup and wear all the nice suits and whatnot. And then I'd get to work and slave away from until 6 o'clock till 9 o'clock. That was my happy time in the morning because that was when I could get work done before being interrupted and before the phone started ringing. So that was my time to actually get started and catch up on the urgent work that I had to do. And then after 9 o'clock, my day was pretty well spent in supervising a few staff members, helping them and mentoring them and, on the phone, constantly on the phone all day long. And then, sometimes I'd get lunch, but most often not. And I used to stand outside my workplace and I used to think maybe if I just, work really hard, I can get out at 5 o'clock and get lunch. And, that never happened. It never happened. The only times that I would leave work at 5 o'clock was when I taught at night. So I used to teach adults and train them in work and mentor them, and it was a vocational education course at a diploma level at one of the colleges. And my work loved me teaching there because then they could say, on their website that their staff, give back to the community by helping others, and it was all good stuff. And for me, it was the only day of the week that I got to leave at 5 o'clock because on the nights that I wasn't teaching, I'd be working until about 8 o'clock at night, 8:30, sometimes 9, and I was on a first name basis with all the cleaning staff who often used to bring me food and whatnot, which was super nice of them and very, very lovely. Then about 9 o'clock, I would, sometimes catch a cab home, or sometimes not. Sometimes, I might catch public transport, or sometimes David would pick me up. But by the time I got home, it would be about 9:30. So David, working in construction, he would be home about 3. So he would make dinner. So basically for 15 odd years I never cooked because if I wasn't at work, I was teaching, and either way I didn't get home until about 9:30 of an evening. And, after gobbling down some food, David would crash out because he was up early going to work, and I'm a night owl, and so I would get back onto the computer using remote access and access my work computer so I could, catch up on a bit of work until about, 12 or 2 o'clock in the morning, and then have a couple of hours sleep and go back and do it all again. And of course, I had to go in on Saturdays as well to catch up on all of the work that I needed to do. So as well as doing that, I was also dabbling in a bit of internet marketing, and in the end, I had to give that up after a couple of years, and that was my first YouTube channel, by the way. And I had to give that up because, I was just working hours that really demanded that that I couldn't do really anything else on a Sunday but to get my clothes ready for work during the week. Now, of course, I could have changed jobs, and yes, I did change jobs. I changed jobs so many times, and every time they promised me a work-life balance, it was like the kiss of death for me because it just never worked out that way for one reason or another. So cut to 2015, and I was depressed, I was miserable, I hated my job, and I hated everything about my life. And one day I seen this ad for life coaching, and they were giving it away as a discount. You could do it over the phone on Skype, so I didn't need to give up any of my work time to go to an appointment. So I had this interview with a life coach, and basically he helped me realise in an hour that even though I'd worked so hard to get this wonderful career with views over Sydney Harbour and a chef and people that come around and give you massages, it wasn't what I wanted. And by the way, I never got to look out the window and enjoy the beautiful view because I was too busy head down, bum up. And I never got to have a massage because, that would interfere with me being able to type, talk on the phone and do everything else that I was doing. But I did certainly take advantage of having a chef on staff. And the reason that they do that is so that you never leave your desk and so that you're always earning money for the firm, which is, that's all, fair enough. And I was kind of used to that environment and, being tracked on every time that you left your desk and all that sort of stuff. But it wasn't the life that I wanted. It really wasn't. I was much happier when I earned less and had more time. And the life coach helped me to realise that even though I was in a career where I really enjoyed the industry, I didn't actually enjoy my job. And I really hated it. And so one of the things that he said to me was to go out and buy a kid's colouring book and some cheap pencils and just sit there and colour it away for like half an hour a day just to relieve some stress and anxiety and, all the things that had just built up in me and how I felt like I was about to explode and, go completely crazy. So I did that, and I went down to the local discount shop on my way home from work, and I bought a cheap children's colouring book that had like Snow White in it and Cinderella. And I bought some very cheap pencils that were like $2 or $3, so I think you can get an idea of how cheap these pencils were. I wasn't spending any money on this, what I considered then a task to help me to relax. I didn't think of it as as art therapy, or I didn't think of it as a hobby. I just thought of it as something that would calm me and help me to focus and relieve a bit of stress that I was feeling in my job. Anyway, you're probably thinking that, well, I fell in love with it and that it all started from there. And that's not true at all. I absolutely hated it. I hated the colouring book, I hated the pencils, and I really thought that it was just a waste of my time. And I didn't like one little bit of it, and I barely did any of the pictures, and they didn't look like I thought they should look for an adult colouring in a picture, not a kid scribbling all over it. So I was disappointed with the experience, and I did do a little bit, but I really didn't do a lot. And I said to David at the time, that you'd think that there would be a colouring book for adults that adults could colour in, because a lot of people have got pencils and stuff from school, and they might just enjoy having a more adult type book rather than this cheap, awful thing that I'd bought. And I'm sure there were probably better kids' colouring books, but the local reject shop didn't have a lot of choice. So he said, well, when he stopped laughing, he said, no one would ever buy an adult colouring book. It's absolutely ridiculous. No one would ever buy it, and how stupid type thing. And he said, basically said that I come up with some good ideas occasionally, but that wasn't one of them. And when he stopped laughing, he didn't say much else about it. But this idea was in my head about this adult colouring books, and I felt sure that there were other adults that would probably like a better book. I never thought about the pencils or anything like that. I just thought that the book was all wrong for me and the place that I was at in my life. Anyway, I think a year went past and I was reading an article in the newspaper about this woman called Joanna Basford, and apparently she created a colouring book for adults, and it was a bestseller around the world. So I took great pleasure in showing David that and telling him that someone invented this thing called adult colouring books, and it was a bestseller and it had sold over 1 million copies back then. And he was like, well, I guess I was wrong. So then I thought, I would like that adult colouring book. So I bought Secret Garden. And I'd actually bought another colouring book just before that was at a discount shop. But I didn't really like it. And when the news articles came out about Secret Garden, I went and bought that. And it was just beautiful. It was far more what I expected for an adult to colour in. So I grabbed out those cheap pencils that I'd bought a couple of years before, a year before, I guess, and I started to colour it in. And the experience, again, just wasn't what I thought it would be. I couldn't make the flowers look pretty. I couldn't understand how colouring something that I'd done as a kid could be, or I must have done, but I really don't remember, that there could be so much more to it to make it look attractive. But I did really like looking at the pictures. So then time went on and I didn't really colour a lot in the book because I had some personal problems in my life that led to a big year of depression, and I probably won't talk about that because it still kind of makes me cry a bit. But I was suicidal. I was at the end of... I was so miserable and so unhappy, and I was still in that god-awful job, and I just really didn't think I could take it anymore. And then I got an email one day, and I hadn't even been looking at my emails because I cut myself off from the world. I'd just stuck a smile on my face, gone to work, come home, and then I'd cry myself to sleep every night, which is what I did for a year because I was going through my own, personal hell. And for some reason, I looked in my email that day, which I hadn't done for so long. I hadn't called people, I hadn't looked at emails. I was just truly depressed and not able to do anything but just function enough to get myself to work, put the smile on and come home and just basically collapse in tears. But the email said, learn how to make adult colouring books. And it was the first email that I actually seen that gave me any sort of spark of interest. I'd lost interest in everything. And poor David for having to put up with me during this particular period of time because I was a mess. And it was the only thing that had just put a smile on my face and just brought me joy. And I know that might sound weird, but sometimes there's something that just triggers you and can bring you out of a slump. And for me, it was this email on how to make adult colouring books. And it was like a little $10 ebook that you could buy, and it would tell you how to make these colouring books for adults. So I bought the ebook, and I had all of these wonderful plans to make adult colouring books. And because I'm pretty good with software, I bought some software and I played around with it, and I made hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of mandalas and all sorts of things with the hope of creating my very own colouring book. And when I had all of those things in place, I kind of felt that they weren't enough, and that I should, maybe research this market a little bit more. And that's my personality. I like to research, I enjoy it. And so I research colouring books by actually going out and buying them. And before you know it, I was enjoying looking at the colouring books more than I was thinking about making my own colouring book. And I still had that thought of making my own colouring book, but I thought that the artwork should be more artist quality. And so I hired a number of artists, and I actually had a number of colouring books created that are all sitting on my hard drive because I never ever released them. Because, artwork changes, and, back then my thoughts on colouring and what I'd like to produce are completely different from what they are now. But I had this great big pile of books, 150 books that I'd bought because I'd like different things about them, or I'd like the pictures in them, or I'd like the layout, or all sorts of things that I'd bought as like my research project, if you like. And I used to just sit there and enjoy looking through them and thinking about colouring them, but more looking through them because I really do enjoy colouring books as art books. To me, they're the cheapest art book collection that you could possibly have. And about this time, I finally called it quits on the job from hell. And I quit my job, and within an hour I had my vocational education college ring me up, just in one of those coincidences that happen, and ask me to go to their main college and teach for more hours. And so within an hour I'd gone from one job to another job, and that worked out really, really well. So I still had all these colouring books though, and I joined a couple of Facebook groups, and people would often ask in the Facebook group if someone had a particular book, and I generally had a particular book and they wanted to see the pictures of it. So sometimes I would just post a picture or two of the colouring book that I had, and sometimes I would try and video it. So after a few months of doing this, we went away on holidays, and while we were on holidays, I was thinking about all my colouring books and whatnot, and I was thinking, what I should do is, rather than wait for people in groups to ask me about a particular book that I might have, I might just start up a YouTube channel, and I will take videos of the books, and then people can just find them, and I can send them a link if they ask me about it. And that's basically what I did. We got back from holidays in 2016, and I set up my YouTube channel called Colouring Queen, because some of you know this, but Queenie was my childhood nickname, and so colouring and Queenie, and I just abbreviated that to Queen. So it's not because I think I'm the queen of colouring or anything like that. Joanna Basford has certainly got that title. It's just my nickname from school. And so I set up my YouTube channel, and I didn't have any fancy equipment. All I had was an iPhone 7. I didn't have a tripod or anything, or lights or anything like that. So what David did was he masking taped my phone to a gooseneck lamp, and that was kind of my tripod and light all in one. And I filmed for 2 weeks straight. I filmed 150 colouring book videos all at once. And then I uploaded them all to YouTube, which took forever and a day. And I did them all at once. And now I don't know why I did that. But anyway, I did. And to be honest, it turned out really good in some ways for me. So the good part of it was that obviously I'd got all my collection filmed and uploaded. And just within a month or so after I got them uploaded and I was stripping them out once a day, I got really, really sick, and unfortunately I was sick for an entire year. So all the videos that you see from the first year of Colouring Queen were actually all filmed within 2 weeks on an iPhone duct taped to a lamp. And they were all filmed all at once when I didn't have any feedback on what I should be doing and what I could have done better and all of those things. So from my point of view, they're all a dog's breakfast, and sometimes I feel the urge just to delete them because I'm embarrassed about them and everything else. But the other part of me likes to have a video of each book in my collection, so I keep them there for that purpose, but I'm really embarrassed about them. But anyway, so once they were uploaded to YouTube, I dripped them out once a day over the next, 6 months or a year or so. And just after I'd got them uploaded and set them on a schedule to release, I got severely sick, and I kept getting sick, and I'd recover, get sick, recover, get sick. And so sometimes I'd recover enough to order some books for my next reviews, and then I get really severely sick again. And I never took a day off work, so I kept going to work, and I was only working 2 or 3 days, so I'd have a day off in between to kind of recover, and then I could go back to work, and I'd have to get up at like 6 o'clock in the morning to go through a whole routine just to get me through the day, because they were 12-hour days. I taught 3 classes, morning, noon and evening, not getting home again until like 9:30 at night. And then I'd have the school holidays to try and recover and get better, but I just kept getting sick again, and in the end I got a respiratory lung infection, a pneumonia a couple of times. I had bronchitis 2 or 3 times just in one spout of a year, and it left me completely worn out, and my immune system completely shattered. So in actual fact, it took me all of 2017 to recover from being sick for a year in 2016. And I spent basically all of 2017 trying to get better and still trying to produce all the videos and all the things that I wanted to do when I sat on holidays just before I started my YouTube channel and wrote a book out on all the great ideas that I had for a YouTube channel and a blog, and being sick and then recovering and, working 12-hour days in order to get it done just left me completely exhausted and whatnot. So by 2017, I was recovering from this illness, and I'd started to get back into doing the reviews. But during this time, and I know it might seem weird, but I actually never had time to colour at all, because when I say I was sick, I was lying on the couch, couldn't move, sick, hoping I wasn't going to die. And there was just no energy to colour in or to learn to colour in or do anything because I was feeling really bad. And in between time, when I was well enough, I still had work to do and an income to earn. And then by the time we got to 2018, I was hoping that I could finally start doing what I wanted to do with this particular channel. And that's when we decided that we would move to Queensland. And in order to do that, we needed to renovate our house in Sydney first, and then we moved to Queensland to renovate another house. So in between all the renovations and no electricity or internet or no room to film or not knowing where all your stuff is because you're renovating stuff and everything's still in boxes, it's been hard. And in 2019, we were finishing doing that as well because we briefly moved back to Sydney to be with David's father before he passed away. So it's been a kind of disruptive last 2 years and still not on top of everything that I would like to do and achieve, but I still have this lovely big book that's packed full of ideas and all of these things that I would like to do with this channel, and hopefully I have another 4 years on YouTube or on my blog, and I'll get through that list one day. So that's my story of how this whole channel eventuated and how I got started in colouring in the first place, and how that journey has zigzagged and stalled and come to an abrupt stop at sometimes all along the way. Things have changed a little bit in the 4 years. I've got a light now, and I'm still using the same iPhone that I started on, but I do actually have a tripod for it now, although I did break it. But I am updating that phone shortly, and hopefully I'll be getting a new tripod to go with it, because it's now held together with little bits of ribbon that you get wrapped around your colouring books from Korea. But I hope you've enjoyed getting to know a bit of that backstory, and also this picture that I'm colouring in from Tabitha Barnett from one of her Broken Circles colouring books. I want to thank everyone that's ever come to my channel to watch a video. I still remember my very first subscriber. I remember uploading that video and just sitting back and just wondering if anyone would ever come to my channel and wondering if I would ever get a subscriber, and the happiness when I got a subscriber. And not only did they subscribe, and I still know their name, thank you very much, but they also left a comment, and I can't tell you how much that means to me. Everyone that's ever subscribed to the channel, that leaves a comment, to all of those people that every now and again they send me a card in the mail or something, and it's just so unexpected. And I can't believe that there are sometimes people in the world that just sit there and go, oh, maybe Lee would like to get a card in the mail, or maybe she would like this book that I don't fancy, but maybe she would like it. And it's just so incredibly nice. And so I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. I appreciate you more than you would ever know. And I don't want to tear up and cry, so I'll just say that I really appreciate everything. I appreciate every like, I appreciate every view, every subscriber and every comment. It means the absolute world to me. And I want to thank everyone that's ever taken part in any of the giveaways, my Love What You Do contest, all of the lovely members in my Facebook group. They are the nicest people on earth. And so I know you've heard this line a few times before. So that's it from me. Until next time, happy colouring.